I was just thinking about, I just got back from lunch, so excuse me for the way I look, but I wanted to get my camera because I came up with a topic in my mind that I've been asked before in the past. Is what's the difference between hard of hearing and deaf? Stick around. The best experience, turn on closed captioning and then attach direct audio to your ears or hearing aids and enlarge your screen. Okay, I'm back. Here we are. My name is Dee Dee. This is Healthy Hearing Loss, and we're going to cover hearing loss related topics from my own experience. I will provide and share my challenges, my tips and strategies to make hearing better. What is the difference between hard of hearing and deaf? And now that's a pretty broad question because there's a lot to talk about when it comes to those two different terms. It's very hard to explain, but I'm going to do the best I can in a short video. I will try to keep it simple, but there is a lot to it, and yeah, it's hard to do. Myself, I've been deaf since the age of 2, and I've been hard of hearing at the age of 4. What? Makes me feel like I had a past character and I have 2 characters now. You want to know about them? This ought to be interesting. Okay, I was born hearing. At the age of 2, I was told that I was deaf. And then when I was age 4, I got hearing aids and I could hear, so I was then hard of hearing. Does that make sense? So from 2 on until, I don't know, my 30s, I was moderate to severe hard of hearing. And then from 30 on, my ears got a little tired and I became severe to profound hard of hearing. Confused? Yeah, tell me about it. I think of my hearing and hearing loss as a journey on a spectrum. And anyone that has any sort of hearing or not can fall anywhere on that spectrum. So if anybody has audio that goes through the ears that gets processed to the brain, or somebody who has perfect hearing, or somebody has no hearing, fits anywhere on the spectrum. Now remember, this is my interpretation, this is my spectrum of thinking, because I like to keep things simple. Because if you were to think about the anatomy and the physiology of the whole audio stuff, starts off with the ear and then goes down into the canal and hits that little eardrum and then processes into this kind of musical cochlear and then goes into the brain and then it gets interpreted and the brain understands. So that's a lot, right? But there's also little teeny bones in there and hair, and I'm not going to get into that. What I want to get into is a simple way of looking at or understanding how people can say they're hard of hearing or deaf, because there's so many. It varies. It varies from person to person. It's not the same. Every hard of hearing person out there does not have the same hearing loss as me. They do not understand or interpret or communicate the same way I do, and I might not them. So yeah, it's like all over the place. We're a crazy bunch. Because it is so complex to talk about this, I am going to show you a visual presentation to kind of maybe simplify it, and maybe it'd be easy for me to explain it and for you to understand it. So let's go check it out. Okay, we're going to go ahead with the visual of my journey spectrum. I'm going to start off by drawing a line from the left to the right, a couple lines on each end, and many points in between to represent a spectrum. We'll type in hearing on the left, we'll type in no hearing on the right. Going back to the left, hearing loss starts with mild, going to the right, got moderate, severe, profound, and then deaf. Now you'll see that I capitalized the D, deaf. That's a culture, and that's a whole different topic in itself. Then we're going to draw a line down and to the left. This represents the hard of hearing category, and then down to the right, this is the deaf category. Now I was born with hearing, and around 2 years old, I acquired hearing loss from an unknown etiology and lost my hearing. Currently, right now, I am in the severe to profound hearing loss category. For myself, when I am wearing my hearing aids, I consider myself hard of hearing. And when I am not wearing my hearing aids, I consider myself deaf. So when you think about this spectrum with a line that demonstrated in the visual, you think about kind of like this dial that goes up and down. So we know that on this side is hearing and the side is no hearing. And anywhere in between can be where this dial can go. Am I making sense? So if you're here, you're hearing. If you're in the middle, you moderate hearing loss. If you're way down here, off the chart, you're deaf, and anywhere in between. For me, fluctuations make a big difference in this dial. So fluctuations can affect that dial, and that could be anything from a sinus infection, an ear infection, tinnitus, loud noise, constant loud noise can kind of dampen what I can already not hear. This dial that goes there, so if I have a sinus infection, then it may go towards the deafer side, towards the more profound side, and make it much more harder for me to hear. But even on the flip side of that, sinus infections can make me go in this direction, which and then makes me hypervigilant, and everything sounds super loud, like loud. So anything can impact this spectrum. So if we think of that point marker, maybe that would make you understand. If somebody would say, I'm hard of hearing, you can say, where is your pointer on the spectrum? Are you mild? Are you moderate? Are you severe, profound? Kind of having an idea where they fall in that. But it doesn't mean you communicate with them any different, because they still need to read your lips and watch your body language and your facial expressions, and you need to face them and don't talk from another room and so forth and so on. I think that falls pretty neutral across the board. If you can keep that graph spectrum in your mind, it might make it easier for you to understand not only your own hearing if you have hearing loss, or somebody else's hearing loss. I have to say that there is definitions, and I took one from the World Health Organization, and I'm going to read it right now. It's right up here. So, what's the definition of hard of hearing? Hard of hearing refers to people with hearing loss ranging from mild to severe. People who are hard of hearing usually communicate through spoken language and can benefit from hearing aids, cochlear implants, and other assistive devices, as well as captioning. So I'm hard of hearing. But wait, it said mild to severe. So I have severe to profound hearing loss, and I wear hearing aids. I communicate with spoken language, and I use assistive devices and captioning. So I'm hard of hearing. All right, okay, whatever. Let's move on. Okay, so what's the definition of deaf? Deaf people mostly have profound hearing loss, which implies very little or no hearing. They often use sign language for communication. So, my hearing loss is severe to profound. And when I don't have my hearing aids in, I have little to no hearing. And I also rely on sign language at home when I don't have my hearing aids in, because how else am I going to talk to my husband? So I'm deaf. One thing that I have to point out, which is very important, is that hard of hearing is one thing, deaf is another thing, but capitalized D deaf is a whole different animal in itself. It's a different topic, but I do want to give a little piece of information. So capital D deaf is a culture, and they have their own language, and depending on where they live in the world and which language they learn, the ones that I know about in the United States and America is American Sign Language. Spoken language is not their first language. They have values and beliefs in their culture. It's a very close-knit culture, by the way. I have many friends in the deaf community, and they're awesome, they're friendly, they're nothing to be afraid of. People are afraid of deaf people, and I have never understood, no, I should say There was a time I was afraid of deaf people, but I made myself meet them. And when I met them, they're just like regular people like you and me. It's just that they use this, you know. Do you have any friends that speak Chinese or speak Spanish? What's the difference, right? So anyway, I just wanted to point that out. It's a very important topic, and I love that topic, but it's really not for me to educate on because I'm not capital D deaf. When I put these little dandy little things in my ear, I am then hard of hearing. I'm transformed into this hard of hearing person. As I mentioned in my visual presentation of my little spectrum, is when I have my hearing aids in, I consider myself hard of hearing. And when they're out, I consider myself deaf. You know, these little man-made machines that are in my ear make me feel a little bit robotic. Yep. Or maybe I have artificial intelligence. What's that sound? What is that song? Okay, everyone, that's it for this video. I hope you liked this content, and if you did, go ahead and hit that like button and go ahead and subscribe to my channel, as well as hit that little bell button at the bottom so you'll know about future videos. And I shall see you later. Bye.